This interview is on March 27th.
Welcome to the Polytopian Interviewer, where usually TNT interviews people on their experiences and views in the Polytopian Discord community. I have TNT with me today. How are you, TNT?
Doing all right. It feels a bit weird that I'm not the host, but
Thanks for agreeing to let me interview you for the podcast. I think this is going to be fun.
Oh yeah, definitely.
How did you first get into the Polytopia Discord community?
So first, I was not like most people. I didn't get into the Discord until years later. I played Polytopia on and off around starting 2017-ish. And then last year, about middle of it, I was like, maybe I should try this Discord thing. There's this Polytopia server. I guess I'll try it. Got an account, went in and okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. Got into Polychamps and then it all spiraled from there and I got completely absorbed.
So when you were first playing, did you just do pass and play with friends, or did you play with bots?
It was pretty much bots. I actually have a brother that kind of plays Polytopia, but it's not very often, so I mainly just played crazy bots. Got bored with it, uninstalled it, then eventually got back into it and got up to the Discord.
Nice. Why did you start the friendly Polytopia server?
I guess the main reason is I saw there was a big hole because there's main, there's Polychamps for ranked games, but there's nothing for unranked games. I didn't know it at the time, but there was Polytopian Cave and Polygamers, but there wasn't that I could find a server that was for unranked games. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna make it. And this guy that I've been playing ranked games with that actually communicates with me, he's willing to help out too. So this is cool. And then I slowly built up the empire, mostly one person at a time.
Your empire, your friendly empire. I like that.
Still growing strong.
What do you enjoy most and least about running the friendly Polytopia server?
As of recently, useless pings.
Yes.
Because I understand that you want me to read your message. I am the admin of Friendly Polytopia. I read all the threads a lot. I'm kind of addicted to Discord because I'm the admin of Friendly Polytopia. So I check often. You don't need to ping me. And then I have to check and realize I could have read this message 10 minutes from now. It wouldn't have been alright. So we're working on enforcing that a little bit more. That's probably my least favorite. Least favorite in terms of, besides recently, is getting rid of the trolls and toxic people. Usually it's the toxic people. Funny thing is, after I ban them, they go, your server isn't friendly! No, we're not friendly to people that aren't friendly. That makes sense in my book. Not everybody's a good fit for the server. That's not how life works.
Yeah. I hear you about the useless pings. I feel the same way. I really dislike pointless pings. I feel like pings are just if you need something urgent or you need help right away. Other things, they don't need a ping. I agree.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the another reasons why I'm stepping back from my teen games, which we'll cover in the future. I understand with Poly Elo, it's set up for all the pings. It's just that some teams take it a bit too far and just use it as casual conversations when they can just go on PC and do it there. But they have to ping everyone in the game for each message instead.
Yes, I see that trend too. In my Polychamps teams, you'll get a ping for the whole game, and it's like, ha ha, how do you like that giant? And I'm like, you didn't need to ping me for that. The next questions are about the podcast. What is your goal with the Polytopian Interviewer podcast?
Some people call me crazy. Some people call me super ambitious. I am going to interview every single interesting person that is willing to have me interviewed, and they don't dodge me and waste my time.
Every single interesting person?
Yes, I already got through a decent chunk of them. And that includes Zoe and Nelik, assuming I can get them. Though, of course, I'm going to wait a bit and let my reputation build up a bit more.
Wow, that is very ambitious.
I mean, including bonus episodes, I'm releasing 2 interviews a week. Polychance releases a text interview once every, 2 or 3 months? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, compared to everybody else, I am crazy.
Well, I applaud your efforts. How do you find your interview subjects? And do you get refusals?
Good question. So, most of it is just me poking around in other servers, because while I'm not active in pretty much all of them, I'm in, quote unquote, a lot of servers. So I can, when I'm off work, sometimes I just browse around like, okay, what's in IMEA that's going on in Hoodrick, and that's how I also find emojis and stuff for Friendly Polytopia. I just browse around, see active people. Oh, this person's a mod or admin for this server. They might be interesting. So I add them to the list. And then for refusals, sometimes. Usually it's because they're not comfortable with it, or it wouldn't be a good time to do a sit down and record interviews. More common. Sometimes the person's like, yeah, English is my 3rd language. Oh yeah, we could do text only. Wow. I applaud you for knowing more than one, because one is enough for me.
Yeah, I've seen you've gotten creative. I think Gully, you did like a pre-recorded one, and someone else you did a text-to-speech one. But I imagine there are some people who are just not comfortable doing voice chat, right?
Yeah. Or they feel that it'd make a fool of themselves with the recording or something along the lines of that. And I totally understand that. Because if you force an interview, it's not going to be any good. Yeah, it's voice, but the person doesn't want to be there. You're going to be able to sense it. And everybody that's listening to it's going to go, oh, this person doesn't want to be here. Why am I here? And then they'll lose interest.
Yeah, that makes sense. You want people to be comfortable and open. Otherwise, it won't be a good interview.
Mm-hmm. Especially with my interview with Prophet. As of recording, it hasn't been released. But when this interview is released, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I look forward to that. What is your process for making the podcast?
Oh, I've been looking forward to answering this question. People do not realize how much work I put into this. Oh, great interview. I ate it up in 15 minutes. I put 3.5 hours into it.
Wow.
Okay. At least. Usually, for every minute, I put in at least 6 minutes of work. And then you have to add on a bit of Seb. He helps with some of the questions and proofreading. Also have to account for him. Basically, you have to poke around, find interesting people, DM them, see if they're willing to do a voice interview. If they are, you got to schedule it, make sure you got a time right. A lot of people are in Europe, and I'm in America, so North America, that is. So usually my weekends are filled with doing 2 or 3 interviews a week, because if I do 2 interviews a week, I want to do 2+ recording new ones, and I'll get to that in a bit. The process. We scheduled it, the actual recording. The recording is like the easiest part. Having the actual interview is the easiest part by far. And the most fun, at least for me. And then you got that. So now you have an audio recording. You got to do a rough of that. So you got to cut out, pause, right? And all those imperfections. Then I am so thankful there is a transcript AI that you can just put your audio recording in. It'll give you a transcript. It's not perfect with figuring out who's the speakers. So I have to do formatting of that. And sometimes it assumes weird stuff. And of course, the AI doesn't know Polytopia terms. So barter is just barter. It's close. The AI
what does the AI think of Illyrian?
I think it actually gets that one right. It just spells it different. There must be another word similar to it. One interesting thing it assumed I said was something about the people dying in the Twin Towers. That was pretty cool, in my opinion.
What?
Yeah, no, I didn't actually say that. Or maybe it was the guest. I don't quite remember. All I remember is the AI and going through the transcript and, yeah, that can't be right.
No. Yeah, I'm guessing it could translate some really awkward things like IMO mind benders. Like, what would it mean with that?
That one's actually perfectly fine. It assumes IMO is IMO. Must be a company or a stock or something.
Interesting. So once you have the transcripts, then what?
That's just the rough transcript. So the process has evolved a bit since I started the podcast. I was able to lump in some steps together. So before, the process was even more complex. But now it's just, okay, at this point, got the transcript, the rough transcript, got the rough audio. Now, cross-check and make sure everything is right, not missing any things, any weird pauses, hard S's, stuff like that. Make sure all the spacing is right and I didn't mix up people speaking. I did that sometimes. Oh yeah, and then of course tagging. With two people, tagging is pretty easy. You just gotta space out who's saying what and then just copy, paste, alternate the tags of the people. Three people, yeah, I gotta listen to it because I don't remember, even if it's 4 days later, I don't remember who said what if I'm just reading it.
So with tagging, you have to go through the transcript basically and say, TNT, said this, and then Loki said that. You have to identify the speaker.
Yeah, basically. And then, once I'm done with all the cross-checking, I can finally put on the music, the intro, my pre-recorded outro. Yes, I don't say the outro every time. I have a few different recorded ones because it saves me work. And then have Seb approve it, look through make sure everything's right. Another thing I also have to do is not really part of the process, but it's scheduling a release schedule. So I gotta have okay, we got these dates, we can do this, and this transcript, and for the bonus, we're gonna do this. And I have that all in a thread, so I can just look at it later going, okay, all right, this one for this date, okay, go into Pinecast, which is where I host it, upload it, put a kind of interesting bad notes. I never enjoy writing the notes. I always feel like it's just terrible. There was one time where I was on the brink of my sanity, and you can kind of tell.
Oh.
But,
You just have to put something in the notes, so you're like, whatever.
Yeah. So schedule it on Pinecast, and then in the morning before work, I have to split it into 15 to 1800 word chunks so I can put it into a Discord thread, which is the interviews. And then, of course, upload the transcript as well. And the date of the recording.
Do you find you have a good balance of shorter bonus ones and then longer ones? Is that hard to juggle?
Not necessarily, because Right now, I have a giant backlog of text-only people. It's like at least 10 people, and I haven't gotten to them because life and recording interviews, and as surprising as it may be for some people, I do have other interests other than Polytopia.
Wait, you have other interests besides Polytopia? I am shocked.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of planning a Minecraft server for Friendly Polytopia. Not sure if that'll take off yet. As of recording, it's still in the planning phase.
Okay, but I would count that as still Polytopia.
I suppose. I mean, before that, I would sometimes play Minecraft, but not very often. I used to be in Polycraft. I played for a weekend, came back 2 weeks later. Okay, I died. I'll just teleport to my home. Invalid command. Okay, I'll just walk to my home. I forgot the coordinates. I lost it. Oh well. Someone probably found all my precious resources already.
Yeah, that's discouraging. And anything else you want to tell us about making the podcast?
Very rarely I have people say they'll do the podcast and then never show up. That's the kind of people that I hate the most. Because if we line up a date and then you don't show up and then say, oh, I can do it later, maybe, possibly. I need it in advance for multiple reasons. You cannot just go, oh, yeah, can we do it an hour later? No, I'm busy. I did not plan for that.
Yeah, that's disappointing when you have things set up and then people flake. It's very frustrating.
I already put in at least a half hour of work on their questions. It's like, well, that's gone.
Yep, I hear you. So what has surprised you the most about making the Polytopia community podcast?
Personally, I guess a lot of PC players are like early 30s, mid 30s guys that are already married. They're just hiding in their teams. So there's a lot of players that are not edgy teenagers that keep pinging each other back and forth.
So you were surprised at how many adults with kids have played this game?
Yeah, I mean, in the back of my mind, I kind of knew that some would, but eventually I'm like, there's more than I thought. There's you, Loki, Icky, Brooke. There's a bunch of people.
Romano?
Oh yeah, him too. Maybe they're all hiding in the Jet server.
I've listened to all of the podcasts, and I really like how you tactfully correct your interviewees or you call out their responses when they say something that's off. For example, there was an interviewee, I remember this, said that Kiku was a well-rounded tribe, and you interrupted them to disagree. I like that. And in some interviews you join in and it becomes less of an interview and more of a conversation. So how do you strike that balance when you step in, voice your own opinion, or you just let the guests do their talking?
There's no easy answer to that question. The super basic disappointing answer is practice. Sometimes I listen to podcasts and those are interviews, and I'm also having firsthand experience doing interviews. But it's basically just gauging the person. You would want it to be a conversation, but you can't force a conversation. You can't really force anything in an interview. If you do, it's going to sound bad, and people are going to be able to tell. With Loki's interview, I'm like, yeah, I can't really say anything right now. Nope, no worthy interjections on my part. So that's why there's just long chunks of him talking, because he had a lot to say, and that's perfectly fine. You just kind of have to sense it somehow. That's the easier way to answer your question.
You just use your intuition, but also it sounds like practice. The more you do this, the more you figure out the right balance.
Yeah, and another thing to keep in mind is there's a lot of different people. So you got to interview a wide range of people, and you have to determine what kind of quote-unquote style that or personality or whatever we want to call that person is. That way you can figure out a better interview. Like with you, you're a lot more talkative and we can have more conversations and times where I let you talk. Loki is more of the pure talker. Just let him do his thing and hopefully interject every once in a while, but that's all you need. Other people need a bit more prompting.
That completely makes sense. It depends on the personality of the interviewer. Some of them are very taciturn and you have to really pull to get more answers, and others will just talk and talk and talk and you have to almost curtail them. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And sometimes some of my questions are like, yeah, this isn't probably going to get into anything good, and then launches into a really good discussion. There was one of my interviews where, oh, well, so could you talk about this person that got banned? Yeah, this person got banned. A giant backstory and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's like, cool, I didn't know any of this.
Right? So that leads to my next question. So what are your favorite moments that delighted you or surprised you in interviews?
Right now, I'd probably have to say hearing Loki's perspective on the whole cheating scandal as well as Profits, because it's going to be very interesting. And in the future, I'm going to have a collection of clips of different people just on that. Even when I run out of interesting people to interview, I'm going to have so many interviews to work with and can focus on just topics and take out snippets and make collections of a sort.
Oh, that's a really interesting idea. Almost like doing a compilation, focusing on a certain subject.
Like Polycraft or something. Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to ask some questions about playing the game. So you have a mentor system in Friendly Polytopia. Have you mentored people or have you been mentored by others? How does that work?
So, small correction to that. Recently, we mostly took away the mentor training system. Originally, it was just me. And at one point, I was mentoring 5 people, and I'm like, keeping track of all these people is a pain, and a lot of these aren't very active, even when I ping them. As per one of the mods requested, outsource it to other people. Other people want to help. Okay? Hey, who wants to be a mentor? A bunch of people reply, oh, okay, this is cool. And so the mentor training system started. And with that, I had to manually pair up mentors and trainees. I would only do that once a month. And poor Pharaoh, he signed up to be a mentor, and every single trainee I give him, the trainee doesn't respond at all, because worst case scenario, they go, join the server, oh yeah, I want to be a trainee. 3 weeks later, I'm not going to bother checking Discord. Or when I do, it's not important. Okay. Now we just went to a single thread where you can find mentors and trainees and just do your own thing, figure it out in DMs or wherever you want to do. I'm still mentoring 2 people. One person I took up mainly because he's an interesting case. Not say who it is. He's a skilled player. It's just currently he's having trouble figuring out how to expand and how to focus on economy, which you need to be able to figure out to do. Am I saying I'm an expert in that? No. Am I saying I can help him? Yes.
But it sounds like you've delegated a lot of the process to other people and then almost just letting mentors and new people match up on their own without you having to be the middle person.
Yeah. At the peak of the mentor trainee system activity, there was about 3-4 mentor trainee pairs, and they would meet up for 2v2s. That was the cool, kind of the main reason that I did it, though I didn't know it at the time when I built it, because 2v2s are very awesome for mentoring because you get to share your process of what you're thinking and moves and all that. With 1v1s, you can't really. And for my trainees, I usually just do 1v1s because it's a lot easier, and then I don't have to find other people, and the other people can't time out because they don't exist. It's only me and the trainee.
It sounds similar to Polychamps, how you have maybe a Nova or even a junior and a senior player.
Yeah, subconsciously, I guess I was mimicking that. Didn't realize it until now.
I think with Polychamps, the difference is you're less likely to have people disappear because usually they've made some kind of commitment to a team.
That's the kind of thing that scares a lot of people, though, is just polychamps and ranked games alone can scare quite a people away. So they come to friendly Polytopia. They're not necessarily fit for polychamps because ranked games and teams and giant commitment and all that. It's just unranked games. We'll do a mentor game when we can.
That's a really good point. Again, the mentor system in friendly Polytopia, it seems similar to a Polychamps junior senior, but without that pressure. It's more casual. You can just be more relaxed with your learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it fits really well for the friendly server.
And the best part is the trainees that do want to learn more, most of the time get sucked right into polychamps. There was Seb. When I first got him into the server, he was a complete newbie. I completely destroyed him as the bossy. Now, he does, okay, I'm going to do this, all this math. Cool, man. This looks right. Yeah, I'm for it.
Speaking of you playing as the bossy, you have said a few times that you prefer to play Zabasi in 1v1 matches so your opponent doesn't accuse you of winning with an OP tribe like Bardur. To me, it sounds like winning fairly, or at least not having your opponent feel like their loss was undeserved. It's important to you. Can you tell me more about having a fair match or a satisfying win is important to you?
That's only partially correct. Like all humans, I'm selfish. If I beat a person using Bardur and they weren't, it kind of eats at me going, duh, you beat them because you were Bardur and they weren't a really good Polychamps person. Of course you're gonna destroy them. And I mean, sometimes, very rarely, I do a random 5 minute match with some random person and destroy them, but most of the time that's not very fun for me. I prefer to have close games and sometimes have the person beat me because, yeah, in terms of skilled players, friendly Polytopia to them, to most newbies in that server, of course I'm going to seem really great. But compared to like Disco and Ju Young's on a complete another level past that. So from my perspective, I'm just okay at it.
That makes sense. I feel the same way. Talking to new people, they think I'm really good, but when I play other pros on Polychamps, I'm like, I'm not that good. It's all perspective.
Definitely. And time commitment as well. Pros tend to dedicate a lot more time to planning out their moves.
Speaking of juniors and Polychamps teams, what is your experience playing as a Valkyrie? You're on the Vikings Polychamps team?
Yep. I joined right before the scandal got unfolded. So it wasn't Profit
Oh, so
that got
you
me
were
in.
technically a cosmonaut at one
Yep.
point?
Because it was early mid-July at that point. So it was still the Cosmos. Icky recruited B. He is like, hey, has anybody else been contacting you? No? Oh, weird. You're really good. Well, kind of, I guess. But I keep getting paired up with these random people that disappear or even assume I'm an enemy. And then we played a 1v1 and he completely destroyed me because he rushed knights and I ran out of giants. That was fun. I say that partially sarcastic, but also partially genuine. Because at that point I was playing a lot of different random people and beating a lot of them, but I'd always avoid people that go, Elo, 1200 plus. Nope, I'm not going to fight you. You're going to destroy me. I was at an interesting stage at that point. Got onto the Cosmos, bunch of things I didn't understand. Okay, you doing these claims, play it. Here's how the process works. Okay, cool. And then the scandal unfolded. And in my perspective, it's just not really anything I could do about it. Because there was no way I was going to be able to learn about it and all the resetting and whatever not. And the brief times I was in PC or main, which wasn't very often, people would go, "Oh, yeah, you're a Cosmo. You're a cheat." What? No? I'm a Cosmo, yes, but I got into the team recently. How does that automatically make me a cheater? But I understand with that, the reputation of the team got completely destroyed. So the rebranding, yes, I'm very glad it got rebranded. Put the past behind us so we can focus on the future. I'm the kind of person that focuses on the future. I don't dwell on the past. If you want to dwell on the past, sometimes it's healthy to dwell on it for a while. But if you get stuck in it, then it's not that great. And then I wouldn't have been able to build Friendly Polytopia if I wasn't constantly looking towards the future. People think Friendly Polytopia, oh yeah, it's one of the flagship servers now. There's so many imperfections and things we can do to get it better.
It's good that you're trying to improve. How do you feel about the Vikings at this point?
As of recording, after this season, I'm going to retire. I got the Tntmasta role for beating Icky, so if they need help with a tribe that's Polaris, I'm willing to do that. It's just being in games is more of a hassle than it's worth, at least to me. Usually when I get a ping in the Viking server, it's just, oh great, I need to hurry up and do my turn. Yay. I understand why some people enjoy it, it's just, it kind of lost that on me.
It sounds like it's a lot of pressure, and at that point, it's not fun for you.
Yes, especially if you add on the guys having the ping paddle back and forth with Poly Elo. Sometimes wake up in the morning, go, I have 9 pings on the Viking server. 6 of them are this one game. Ugh.
Yeah, those pings really drag you down.
Some people say I'm crazy for going ping. Oh, it's just a ping. I treat it as something that needs my attention, or if it's DMs, hey, got a DM, need to check it. Okay, cool. I understand I'm in the minority when I say this, but I like to be professional. Yes, I know it's Discord. Yes, I know there's quite a few teenage boys that just want to have fun and joke ping each other. Just don't joke ping me. I hate it. Especially when I go, hey, can you please stop pinging me to somebody else? And then you reply ping to me? Really? And then, of course, that springs into, oh, wow, yeah, I got blocked by TNT, haha. Yes. Because if you do something stupid, or disrespect my time, or call me rude, or anything like that, yes, I'm going to block you. Because it's like a completely free secretary. It blocks out all the things I don't need. For a lot of servers, I have almost all of the threads muted in categories that I don't use minimized. So I can focus on the parts that I actually use. That's part of how I'm getting so much done. And efficiency. I like it.
I actually completely agree with you about the pings. I feel so strongly that people should not pointlessly ping, and I feel the same way about DMs. DMs should be for private or urgent or some type of important communication. And if people are pinging or even reply pinging, you don't need to reply including a ping if the person is right there in the chat.
But then I have to click the off button. I have to click the on to turn it off. That's work. So I'll just ping them instead. Because that's less work. And they're on anyway, so it doesn't matter, right?
I totally agree with you. So you do you and tell people not to ping you, and you block them if they're annoying you. I agree. We touched on this a little bit already. How does playing in a ranked game or a season game compare to casual gameplay? It sounds like just the ranked games, the league games are more pressure.
Yeah, and I play them a lot slower as well, because you have to upload your screenshot, ping the right people, hey, I'm thinking this, is this any good? And then wait for them. Sometimes some of the pro players have a long conversation about what to do. Sometimes it's a shorter one. Sometimes it's just, yeah, it's good. Okay, cool. And casual games, I can go. I don't have to worry about misclicking because this isn't in the poly elo bot. Yay! I'll eventually get my elo up. It's like, I don't know, somewhere around 1080 because after the reset, I didn't play much ranked games at all. I would say my elo's probably, if I bothered to, I could get it around 1300-ish. But I'm running friendly Polytopia and the Polytopian interviewer, so maybe a couple of years from now.
I think one of the themes I'm hearing from you is you have so many interests, but everyone has limited time, and you need to prioritize how you want to spend your free time. And doing ranked or team games isn't as fun or enjoyable as other ways you could spend your time, like working on the podcast.
Yeah. Some people enjoy that stuff and it's completely fine, but even if you have all the money in the world, like Bill Gates, how many hours in the day does he have? 24. You can't buy more time. You can't pay somebody so you can sit another hour enjoying the sunset or whatever. That's not how it works. You can hire somebody to do other stuff for you, but you still have 24 hours in the day.
Yeah. Your time is precious, and your free time, you should use that to do something that's fun, not something that feels like a chore.
Mm-hmm. For some people, fun is bothering your other Discord online friends, and that's perfectly fine. Just don't bug me, please.
Right. If that's their idea of fun, have at it. But it's not your idea of fun. How much of a difference would you say there is between how you interact with the Discord community now rather than when you first joined?
When I first joined, I didn't have a server at all. I played quite a bit of main games, actually. Only played some PC games because it needed a teammate or not. I briefly did that and then stopped, got into a team. But I mainly played main unranked games and kind of browsing the main server in Polychamps, though not really. Now, yeah, I have an entire server to manage and a bunch of other servers with content I have yet to discover. Oh, and game count, that's another thing. So, pre-Discord, I was actually just playing with random people on Reddit, except you can't communicate with them at all. So, when I go down my giant list, okay, I am going to create 50 games. Oh, wait, this is kind of crazy. Well, this is my whole friend list. Okay. And then have 35 people actually playing with me. It was intense. And then with Discord, I would do 25, 30 games. Now I am in 15. It's kind of 20 right now with the Polytopia with people challenging me. So I'm kind of waiting to finish up some of those games before I can get more challengers. Because, yeah, Polytopia is fun. I don't really do my turns more than once, maybe twice a day, though, most of the time. Especially since I have a day job. I'm not a student or anything. I have work.
So it sounds like when you started, you were just throwing yourself at all these games, and then gradually you've shifted away from the main server and focusing more on friendly Polytopia, some casual games there, but also the gym and just running the server, managing things.
Mm-hmm. Administration. Yeah, Disco commented on that about 3-ish, somewhere around months ago. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how some people start by playing a bunch of games and then they do administration, which is completely fine because then that helps other people that want to play a bunch of games.
Yes, I remember Disco said that, how for some people it's a progression from playing a lot of games and then either they get burnt out playing games or move into more being a mod and running tournaments and administering things. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's still important for people who are running the tournaments or running the servers to still have a toe in the water, so to speak. They should
Mm-hmm.
still be playing games and be familiar.
Got to
What
quote,
do you
be
feel of
relevant with the
that?
masses. And I also interviewed Kahuna and Paxu, may or may not be released. When I released this interview, they were like, yeah, I still play games. It's just not very often. So that's nice.
Yeah. Next question. Can you explain the different rules for your server for Friendly Polytopia? For example, why is there no swearing?
So the pure reason for that is it's a super tiny server, Friendly Polytopia. Nobody knows about it. I am the server owner. Don't really like it when people swear. Ban it. And then eventually the reason shifted towards to keep the friendly atmosphere as it grew. It's totally fine if you swear and use the F word and all that stuff. Just don't use it on my server. Because the bot is going to get you for it. If the bot doesn't, I'm going to notice and warn you.
I think it's interesting. Some people, I think, swear just casually, like just in their conversation. Like,
Yeah, I don't understand those people. Because swearing is
I
supposed to
think for them
be
it's
more
just a habit.
impact. And,
I rarely swear, maybe like once a year, when I drop a plate of steaming food onto my foot. And when I swear, my children know, they all look at me and they know something serious.
It's a psychological something to help relieve stress or something. I'm not a psychologist, don't quote me. Something like that, yeah. But if it's casual, then it loses its impact. I bet there's a psychologist somewhere that did a whole thesis or something on that. And then that can also go into censorship. Am I a terrible server admin for blocking people from swearing? From my point of view, no, because it's supposed to be friendly Polytopia. And if you want to swear at each other, you can go on pretty much any other server out there, because friendly Polytopia is the only one I know that enforces a no swearing policy of any kind. It's just kind of funny. There was something about how some of the mods or admins didn't quite like the newspaper keeping track of all the pings. And that's another interesting thing I find, because that's another form of censorship. There's so many different forms of censorship. Usually when you think of it, you think of, bleeping out the F word and other things. But it's just so much more than that. And if used properly, can be used for good. It's just, where's the line where it's being from helpful to hurtful? And I feel with Friendly Polytopia, it's a good balance to help keep the friendly atmosphere.
Yeah, I think that's understandable because you want to make a narrative, you want to keep the readers, the listeners following along. I think it's a different thing when you're talking about server rules and atmosphere. And you could say that's censorship, but I think if you're upfront and you're saying Friendly Polytopia is this type of atmosphere, we don't want trash talk, we don't want insults, we don't want swearing, this is the environment, and you put that up front, it's not censorship. This is the atmosphere you want to create. And it's different if you suddenly say out of the blue, oh, you're not allowed to say happy birthday or something. That doesn't make sense. But
yeah,
I mean, part of
censorship
being
is more of extreme. I suppose I used that term incorrectly.
No, I think it's a fair point. And as an admin, it's a fine line to walk to maintain the atmosphere you want. And it's a hard job. Next question. We talked about this a little bit. There's a common joke that people who are in the Polytopia community have no life. So how do you manage your interests? Polychamps games, you run the Friendly Polytopia server, you have a YouTube channel, the podcast, and then you mentioned you have a day job. So how do you juggle it all?
I don't really. I mean, there are times where I go, yeah, I've been at the computer too much. I'm just going to step away from it, read a book or something. But there's just so many different things. Sometimes I get distracted with some other hobby that I have. It's just, I don't know, I kind of do whatever. And I'm able to sense when I start losing my sanity with deadlines of the Polytopian interviewer and all that stuff. And I learned to just take a step back. It's okay to not be completely attached to Discord. It's okay if I'm not checking it for a couple hours. There's other mods. I'm the server admin, but there's other mods to help me with the server and all that. It's just take breaks when necessary and keep going at it. Just know when your limit is, basically. And take proper precautions and wind down, I guess you can say.
It sounds like also you've started to delegate some of the duties that you used to take on yourself.
Yeah, part of that is to help lighten my workload. And the other part of that is so I can take on other projects at Friendly Polytopia. Because we're working on a possible Minecraft server. People want more events. Out of the 15-ish responses we got for our survey, what can we do to be better? A lot of people said more tournaments. And that's another interesting thing. It's Friendly Polytopia. Occasional tournaments. Yes, we can kind of do more tournaments, but if we do too many, then the focus of the server will turn into a tournament server. And statistically, based on the people reacting, only about a fifth, a sixth of the members are interested in tournaments. So if we did that switch, which I would not, a lot of people would lose interest because it's just a tournament server now. It's not what I joined. I mean, yeah, there's still daily tips when I'm not, but That's another thing that a lot of businesses and servers, they lose track of what they originally were going after. And then when they completely change, they wonder why everybody's leaving.
These are the standard questions that I think you ask everyone. Do you have a favorite tribe?
You would think it's a bossy. That's only because so people don't go, oh yeah, no, and me, woohoo, I won because I was this tribe. Well, that helped. Yeah, I guess it's a bossy. I don't necessarily have a favorite, besides that I play that one quite a bit.
Do you have a favorite strategy?
The forestry strat's pretty cool if you can do it. Because if you get stuck with organization, when usually you can go for forestry and math and all that, and your opponent's able to chop, that can hurt you. So I wouldn't necessarily say I have a favorite strategy, but there are some strategies where I have to do this because of the map, but man, this isn't looking good.
You're not a fan of chopping every tree in sight?
No, I don't get why newbies like that. I actually played against a newbie that did that strategy. For a while, they were pushing at me, and then, oh, they ran out of resources to continue developing their cities. La 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 la. And that's another thing. I love playing the long game. You can go for your explorers and all that. I'm gonna get my workshops. I'm gonna build up. You can chop a bunch. I'm gonna chop minimally. I'm gonna build up, and I'm gonna have so much income. I'm gonna be able to crush you. There was one person I was playing a Polaris match with. It was a Drylands normal map, and it was doing all right. I was kind of rushing them. They weren't really that great with grabbing their cities, but then they started
Wait,
pushing me
you
for a
were
bit.
playing Drylands Polaris?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a mirror.
And there's no water, there's no ice.
Nights. Polaris Drylands is a very controversial map type. Some people like it, others like you go, why the heck would you do that? It's pretty fun.
You cannot get an ice bank.
What do you mean? Yeah, you can.
Well,
it's ice tiles, not frozen ice.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, otherwise I would agree.
But Polaris excels on spreading ice over water so you can get the movement advantage. I don't play the Polaris Drylands map.
The focus goes from the water advantage of the Polaris tribe against Polaris, of course, and it shifts instead towards getting riders and roads and who can get the ice bank and rush with knights the fastest.
I have never played a game like that. Now I need to try it.
What was I talking before that again?
Oh, your favorite strategy.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah,
are
like,
an economy person. You like
yep.
to do the long game and build up your income and get a high stars per turn.
Yep, that's my favorite strategy, really. Super broad, but not broad enough, I guess.
No, that makes sense because some people are really aggressive players and they just get their cities up. They maybe upgrade them once and then they just spam riders and they go aggro.
Mm-hmm.
That's not you.
Yeah, nope. I mean, if the map says to, but I tend to lean towards, all right, should we get Explorer or Workshop? Explorers almost never do what I want. Workshop!
Makes sense. Can you share a story about a memorable game that you've played?
I guess one that comes to mind is one of my older games. I was playing with Disco before he got so good. He was a newer player at the time. It was, I believe, I was Zinzi, and they were, want to say either Yadak or IMO or something like that. This was way before Moonrise. And I was just going along. Yeah, the map isn't that great for me. This isn't going that great. There's the enemy. They're coming in with all the riders and stuff. This isn't good. Okay. Swordsman. Woo. And, oh, sorry. Before I was able to get swordsman, it came down to one city. I was like, okay, if I don't get this city, he's gonna just overwhelm me with all of his units, and I am toast because there are not that many resources. I had like 3, maybe 4 cities. He had a bunch of other stuff. Went and sieged the city. Disco did his turn, and he did the wrong attack order. He could have unsieged the city. Instead, he left my 1 health point warrior on the city, and I took it. And that eventually
Oh,
pushed the whole game in favor towards me.
so it was that one city and you knew you needed it. And if Disco had attacked in a different order, then he could have taken it, but he did it out of order, so he wasn't able to kill your unit in that city.
Yep. And then eventually I came in with a giant swordsman wall with mindbenders behind it. And yeah, he had knights and found some holes in my formation. But I eventually came in with so many swordsmen he couldn't stop me. That map was mostly just a giant blot of land with some water on the outsides. So I guess it was kind of a dry land map, but it was before Moonrise.
So it sounds like it all came down to Disco making a mistake. Did you talk to him about that game later?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm like, dude, you could have unseated that city. Oh man! He's gotten a lot better since then. A lot better. He can definitely beat me in some PC ranked games now.
I think sometimes talking to your opponents after a match can be really great for learning.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Last question. What is your favorite part of the Polytopia fandom?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. It's my own server. I built this thing.
I'm shocked. Wait, you like your own server?
Yes, because I've probably put in over at least 1,000 hours into it by now. It's not easy to build everything up, add in what the community wants, make sure all the permissions are right, add these rules, make sure people can get the rules right. Gotta have events, tournaments, figuring out all that stuff, doing tournaments by hand, figuring out the tourney bot, and then giant pause and people complaining and dealing with all that. And oh, it's just a roller coaster. I mean, there are points where the server is kind of quiet because we're not really doing any events, but we're working on more events, some more live events, not many though, because statistically only a small number of people want live events, and we recently did one. A few people showed up, and that's fine on a Friday night for Americans, but in the wee hours of the morning for Europeans, not very many is going to show up for
Was
a
that
music.
the music event?
Yeah, that's understandable because more people want to do Polytopia stuff, not necessarily live. Let's share all our music. A very rough fit that not many people fit into.
You also have the live story hour. What do you call it? Chat?
Story time, yeah, that's once a month. Usually have about 6 people show up to that. Used to have a storyteller role, so I can hopefully have other people tell stories, but the funny thing is, most of the people that had the storyteller role didn't ever show up, and the people that had it were going to share their stories anyway in the chat, so I'm like, well, might as well get rid of this, because there's so many categories and stuff. That's another funny thing about the server. Started with 3 threads. Now we have 21 some categories, 80 some threads.
I think that's naturally how Discord servers grow and change. Depends on the members and what they're interested in. You start a thread, seems to do really well, and then after a while nobody goes there and it's dead, and then you have to decide what you're going to prune away.
Yeah,
Pretty normal.
for a while I was like, I'm going to make a debate thread because why not? Every once in a while I would inject some activity and some people would kind of respond and then nobody used it for months. I'm like, yeah, time to get rid of it. That's another interesting thing is for my server, I periodically inject some activity. Not saying it's fake or whatever not, but if I see that there's not a lot of games, sometimes I'll make some, prop up some conversation starters and whatever not. Because sometimes people need that boost and go, oh, there's stuff going on, I can contribute. And as you mentioned in other places, it's an interesting problem. You can have a dead server, but if you have enough people that are active, it can turn into a bunch of people that are active.
Yes, and it's like you said, you have to maintain your core mission. You don't want to lose sight of the main goal of the servers to promote casual Polytopia games. But at the same time, you want to have activity. And I absolutely agree that activity breeds activity. So if you have people showing up to chat, then they're also going to play more casual games.
Mm-hmm. Or because of the ping, they realize, why am I in this server and leave? That was kind of a funny thing for the Polytopia. I was like, okay, we're going to launch this event when we reach 300 human members because we have 7 bots in my alt for testing. Yes, I have an alt. No, it's not on main. It stays in friendly Polytopia. It even has a role TNT's alt account, so you obviously know that it's me. But anyways, after the ping, I watched as our members dropped from 308 to 299. I'm like, well, oh well, we're going to eventually get more people. And as of recording, 5 days later, we're back to about 305 people.
That's so ironic that your benchmark to start the event was 300 people, and then your ping to launch the event made you lose members under 300.
We're pretty much back to 300 again. That might sound ambitious and crazy to people, and I don't even know if it's possible. But my goal for Friendly Polytopia, unless facts stare at me straight in the face that I'm wrong, my goal is to make it bigger than Polychamps in terms of server members, not in terms of activity and all the different teams or whatever not. Because A, that'd be make it like Polychamps, and B, that would change the focus of the server. But I would say it has the potential to beat Polychamps in terms of sheer members.
Wow.
That's just my crazy ambitious dream, though. Not sure if it's going to happen yet. Maybe in a couple of years.
Well, that's great to have big dreams and have big ambitions.
And actually act on it. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I can do this, and then never do anything, and then, man, my dreams, I didn't do anything towards them. Yeah, don't dream, kids, then you just get disappointed. Okay?
Well, you should be proud of the server that you have so far, and I think you should be proud of the podcast. I am a big fan. I think that's all the questions that we had. So I really want to thank you for being a good sport and doing the interview with me.
Mm-hmm. And now people can finally stop going, hey, but I want to hear about you. No, I already did an interview. Ha!
That's great. All right, have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you on the server.
Yep, you as well, Espark. Bye.
Bye.
As always, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share it. For the text version, you can join my Discord in the description. I also have a YouTube channel where I play 1v1s and occasionally do tutorials. We'll be back next week. Bye!